Why can't young people afford a house anymore? I was talking with a younger guy recently about buying a house, and the conversation didn't last long. He looked at the prices, looked at the interest rates, and he laughed and said, "There ain't no way." Now, what struck me wasn't that he couldn't buy a house, it was that he had already accepted he probably never would. For most of my life, owning a home wasn't considered a luxury. It was considered normal. You got married, you found the job, you bought a modest home, a starter home. You raised your family and spent the next 30 years paying it off. Hey, I'm 71. I've lived the dream. Speaking of which, nobody expected a dream home back then. They didn't expect granite countertops, a home theater, and a three-car garage. The goal was much more simple. Own a place of your own. And today that seems farther away than ever for a lot of young people. I got grandkids and kids still in that market. And honestly, some of the numbers don't add up anymore. I spent decades in residential construction. The first houses I worked on weren't mansions by any standard. Most weren't even close. They were practical homes built for ordinary families. 3 bedrooms, 1 or 2 baths, nothing fancy. Usually it was a ranch on a crawl or a basement. It was the kind of place where kids shared bedrooms, bunk beds, families sat down together for dinner, just normal life. And nobody worried about whether the kitchen would look good on Instagram. People bought what they could afford, and builders built what people could afford. The relationship made sense. However, today it feels different. Something has changed. And then before you jump down my throat, I know houses weren't free in 1975 or 1985. Every generation has faced challenges, but something has changed. The ratio between income and housing costs, it doesn't feel the same anymore. Young people are carrying student debt. Rent consumes a huge portion of their income, a much higher ratio than in the past. And interest rates matter again. It wasn't that long ago. We were at almost 2%, and now we're at 6. Property taxes go up. Insurance is ridiculous. And everything associated with owning a home now costs more. At the same time, starter homes have almost disappeared, haven't they? Builders aren't building many small houses anymore because the economics don't usually work. More regulations, that increases the cost. Property costs more. Labor costs more. Everything costs. Materials cost more. By the time the house is finished, the price tag is far beyond what many first-time buyers can afford. And I will admit, part of that is greed on the builder's part also. But it's just not the economy. I don't think that's the whole story. Part of the problem is economic, but part of it's cultural. We've changed our expectations. A lot of people today would look at a starter home from the 60s, 70s, even 80s, and consider them too small. Mine was 1,000 square feet. Too plain. Mine had an unfinished upstairs. Too outdated. Just regular countertops. But that's how older families built wealth. They started small, moved up later. Today, it seems like we're trying to start out the kids where their parents finished. And that doesn't work, folks. The real concern is not just real estate, it's hope. When a generation starts believing that home ownership is permanently out of reach, something important really changes. Owning a home was never just about the house. It represented stability, it was your roots, it was an investment. It was a place to raise a family. It was a part of the culture, a reason to stay connected to the community. And when fewer people can reach that goal, the effects spread far beyond housing. Now, I don't want to pretend I have all the answers because I don't. And I know the housing issue is complicated. But I do know this. After spending a lifetime around homes, around home builders, homeowners, it feels like something important has shifted. And when young people with decent jobs look at home ownership and just laugh because it seems impossible, well, that's one of the things that just doesn't add up anymore. I'd be interested to hear what you think. If you're younger, do you think owning a home is still realistic? Maybe at what age, what income? And if you're older, what do you think has changed? Love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks a lot.